Hey guys, Matt here. This is my first post-Thanksgiving 2024 video. I did not do any last week because I was away on vacation for the whole time. So here I am, stuffed and ready for the Christmas holidays. I'm gonna do Rush today. Rush is another, I guess you can call them prog band, but they're, like a hard rock and prog band. And they're probably the first group to do such a thing, pre, Dream Theater, pre-Opeth or whatever. That the first really hard rockin' band to do that with progressive rock textures. I'm only going to do from 74 to 84 today because even though, I do own Rush albums after Grace Under Pressure, I just don't have all of them. And I think that the first 10 years those are the peak years. So that's what I want to concentrate on today. So let's start with 1974's Rush. I remember this album when it came out. It didn't create a lot of stir at the time. It was kind of seen as, like Zeppelin. These guys were Canucks from up north, with a similar hard rockin' style to a lot of groups at the time. What was the guy's name? John Rutsey was on drums here. It's a decent album. I'd say about half of this works. Finding My Way, What You're Doing, In the Mood, Working Man. That's half the record. But you know what? Those are the songs that are on All the World's a Stage. So there you go. So decent, but had they ended their career after this record, I don't think too many people would be talking about them today. I think 1975's Fly By Night is better. This is their first forays into prog. Rutsey is out and Neil Peart is in. He's going to be their lyricist from now on, also besides one of the great drummers of all time. Again, though, out of 8 tracks, I'd say about half work. Anthem is great, Beneath, Between, and Behind, By Tor and the Snow Dog, Fly By Night. You used to hear that one on the radio. That was like the first Rush song that we heard at the time. And in the end, but the whole thing is pretty good, though. And for a 75, it's better than Crest of Steel. Crest of Steel is my least favorite of the first 3 Rush albums. As you can see, this is a CDR. I don't even own a store-bought CD of this. All right. Bastille Day is classic Rush. Lakeside Park, I'm gonna say that's classic Rush too. But there's some long tracks on here, some real forays into prog. The Necromancer, which is 12 and a half minutes. And the Fountain of Lamneth, which is like 20 minutes. And unfortunately, those aren't that great. I know that there are fans of this record, so I hope I'm not pissing you off, but I think this is the weak link in their, mid-70s catalog. All right, but they immediately improved the following year with 2112. They released 2 albums in 75, Fly By Night and Crest of Steel. 2 albums in 76, this and the live album, which I'll get to in a second. 2112 is virtually a classic. This is the first Rush album I can really remember. You can see it there. All of side 1 is the title track, which is one of the great songs that they ever did. I dig side 2 as well. Patches to Bangkok, you used to hear that on the radio. Something for Nothing is great, and the other 3 are fine, So this is the first one sequentially that I can really get behind. Although Fly By Night's pretty good too, So this is the Mobility version. So pick this up if you haven't, but if you're a Rush fan, I know you've already got it. Okay, a big deal with my friends and I at the time was All the World's a Stage, which was released only in 76, 2 years after their first record. It's a double LP, as so many bands did in those days. So it's all just songs from the first 4 albums. most everything here is good. They do all of the 2112, the first side, although it's a shorter version than the studio one. I don't see anything on here that's new. And they medley some songs, you know, like they do Working Man and Finding My Way, but they stretch it out to almost 15 minutes. And then they also do Fly By Night and In the Mood. You know, that's another medley, but that's only 5 minutes. It's good. It's raw. It's rocking, and I do like it better than the next one I'm going to be discussing in a few minutes. I'll tell you that title then. Okay, so since 2112 was a prog album, you know, where they do one song fits a whole side and then shorter songs on side two, much like, you know, Pink Floyd did on Atom Heart Mother, or Metal, or you know, ELP did with Tarkus, or you know, there were so many. Caravan did with In the Land of the Grey and Pink. They now move on to, well, they're going to stick with the progressive rock vein. Farewell to Kings is another great one. I don't quite like it as much as 2112, but I know guys that like it more. So, you know, got to tell you that. This is another strong one. Oh, what's on here? Farewell to Kings is massive. Xanadu is fantastic. Closer to the Heart, used to play that one on the radio. The other ones, Cinderella Man, Madrigal, and Cygnus, are still good, but definitely I think the first three songs make the album. And, oh gosh, I didn't bring it out. 10 seconds. Okay, there's a lot of Rush in Surround. I don't have it because the reviews aren't that good, and a friend of mine owns a couple of them, and I wasn't blown away. This is the big deluxe box set of Farewell to Kings. Cool little nifty cover there. Steven Wilson did this, you know, who was the god of 5.1 mixes. So this is good. You're going to pay for this, though. So again, I hate to, you know, hardly recommend these things to you guys, these out-of-print box sets, which just because I'm sucker enough to buy them doesn't mean you should be. But anyways, I do recommend a Farewell to Kings in 5.1, even though it's the only Rush in Surround that I have. I suspect it's the best. All right. So moving on, that was 77, 78. Hemispheres. This is the Steve Hoffman. Well, it's DCC. Is it Steve? No, it's Kevin Gray. You know what? Every time that I show you one of these, not DCC, Audio Fidelity, every time that I show you guys one of these Audio Fidelity discs, I always say it's the Steve Hoffman disc. It's not always Steve Hoffman. It's Kevin Gray sometimes. Anyways, Hemispheres is a delight. It's totally a prog album. I like this better than Farewell to Kings. Is it better than 2112? Yeah, it's a toss-up. Cygnus, there's another Cygnus here, which I think it's a better Cygnus than the one that's on, than part one that's on Farewell to Kings. You know, The Trees is kind of silly, but it's famous. La Via Strangiato is classic. You know, again, it's Neil Peart's sci-fi lyrics. It's a silly story about, you know, Dionysus being of the mind, and then no, he's of the is it? Oh well, he's bringer of love, and Apollo is right, but it's Apollo that's a bringer of wisdom from the mind, and Dionysus is the physicality, and then, you know, in the end it's Cygnus that can balance the two. It's you know, it's a silly little story, but music is kick-ass. One of the great hard rock prog albums of all time. And that's their last fully prog album, but there's still a healthy degree of prog. In 1980's masterpiece, this is the Low Fidelity version of Permanent Waves. This is another, you know, it's difficult to say exactly what the greatest Rush album is, unless you want to go with the consensus choice of Moving Pictures, which I'll get to in a second. This is way up there, though. Permanent Waves. This is 1980. They didn't do an album in 1979. Oh God, Can I read this? Yeah. Spirit of Radio, classic Rush, and it was all over the radio. Free Will, another classic Rush song, also played to death. Jacob's Ladder, slow kind of bolero beat, really a good song. What's on side 2? Entre Nous, that's really good. Different Strings, also good. And Natural Science. Yeah, there's no filler on here. All those are strong cuts. So if you haven't picked it up, or you've heard Spirit of Radio or Free Will, you're interested in the band just because of that, pick this up. I highly recommend it. But I'm very similar, and I'm going to say better. Moving Pictures. This is the old Low Fidelity gold disc. There really is no filler on here. Look at those cuts. 7 cuts, and they're all pretty much classic. Side 1 is the most perfect LP side that Rush ever essayed. Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, YYZ, which is an instrumental, Limelight. All those songs are top tier Rush. Side 2 takes a little bit longer to grow on you, but it's great. Camera Eye, which is really long at 11 minutes. Witch Hunt, Vital Signs. The prog is still here, but this being 1981 and, all the classic 70s prog bands had kind of faded away or weren't doing their best work anymore. This is probably the best. If we're going to call this prog, this has got to be the best progressive rock album of 1981. I mean, what? Genesis did Abacab. Yes didn't do an album this year. Oh, King Crimson, Discipline. Yeah. I wouldn't want to have to decide between this and Discipline. This one's very Talking Heads oriented, though. Whereas this is just kind of still back to the basics, classic Rush. Ooh, that's one I have to think about now. Discipline or Moving Pictures. Difficult choice. Also in 81 was Exit Stage Left. Another double. Had this one at the time. This mostly, covers stuff from the last 4 albums, although it does have, what is on here? Well, there you go. Beneath, Between, and Behind, which is from Fly By Night, right? There's some new stuff on here. Brune's Bane. God, is that it? Yeah, it could be. And I think that's just like an intro to another song, maybe to The Trees. The one thing I'm going to say about Exit Stage Left, you can see the characters on the album are all from previous Rush LPs, is that there's a bit of a sterile quality in that these versions are very similar to the ones that are on the studio LPs. They're not really improvising all that much. They're not really stepping outside of their comfort zone. So I am going to recommend to you, since these are the only 2 live albums I'll be discussing in the context of this video, I am going to recommend to you All the World's a Stage. But again, Rush fans we are a dedicated breed. Plenty of people love this album. I like it too. And I had it back at the time when it first came out. I'm just going to say I like All the World's a Stage better. All right. Kind of ending their classic run is 1982's Signals. This is another Low Fidelity version. It's a really good album, though. This is when the synths begin to... Well, I mean, there were synths. There's synths. Tom Sawyer has synthesizers. But this album... Signals, it's starting to become prevalent. It won't become an issue, though, till the next album, which I'll get to in a second. I'm going to say Signals is another classic Rush album. The only time I ever saw the band was here in 1983. It was the Signals tour. My friend and I bought tickets from a little kid scalping. Well, he was in my high school, and sold me. I think we paid like $30 each for those. And that was a lot of money for us in those days. But it was a great show. I mean, Subdivisions is classic. Analog Kid, Digital Man, New World Man was their biggest hit, I think, on the top 40 charts. Again, hardly any filler, if any filler on here. And, ooh, this is going to be a short video. And then we move on to Grace Under Pressure. This is a Japanese disc. Can you see that? Yeah, I'm not going to be able to see the song titles, but what's on here? Red Sector A is great, and Between the Wheels, and what was it? After Image? There's probably other ones I would like if I could remember the titles. Getty is starting to really experiment, though, with synthesizers. It would become an issue, if not on this album, maybe on the next one. You know, Alex felt that he was his guitars were being diminished in favor of, but, you know, it was the 80s and everyone was using synths. This is still a strong album, though. You know, I know it's not quite as good as Signals. Signals is not quite as good as Moving Pictures, but it's still good. If not classic Rush, it's really good Rush. And that's where I'm going to end it, you know. There's other decent Rush albums, you know, post Grace Under Pressure, but honestly, I don't think any are as good as most of the ones that I just discussed with you. So anyways, it's me, Matt, signing off. I'm going to come back hopefully this weekend with Stevie Wonder and MC5. Right now, I can't find Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions CD, and that's my favorite Stevie Wonder album, so I'm not going to do a video unless I have that, but I'll for sure do MC5 if I can't find it. And I'll do something else too. Hopefully I'll do 2 videos this weekend. So stay cool, fools, and until next time.